Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Rogue Trader. It's been a while since we've covered this game, but recently, Owlcat released a survey asking for feedback on how people felt about the alpha. They finally released the results along with some information about how they're going to change things in reaction to the information they've received. And I think some of what they've talked about is interesting, so let's go through it. So the first section of their write-up covers areas and atmosphere, and I will have a link down in the description so that you can see all of the information Owlcat provided for yourself. But in this first section, they said over 87% of the people who filled out the survey really enjoyed the grim, dark tone of the game. I'm definitely one of those people. I feel like the tone is very different from their Pathfinder games. And as someone who's completely new to Warhammer, I think is just different from most of the games that I've played overall. Definitely enjoyed this part of it. However, despite the positive overview overall, there were some people who felt like a few of the areas were too shiny and bright, and that they lacked the grim darkness that would be expected to come with Warhammer. Also, a lot of people felt like the areas are not overpopulated enough. I'm not really familiar with the lore in this way, but apparently the spaces being cramped and overpopulated is supposed to be pretty standard in this game world. So I would say that I'm kind of torn on this. On the one hand, going through these areas that are constantly overpopulated, I can definitely see how it helps add to the idea of poverty and despair and people just feeling packed in and hopeless. But from a gameplay standpoint, I don't know if it'll really improve things. I could see it being very irritating having to push through swarms of people everywhere I go when I'm trying to complete quests. And also, I feel like having just dozens and dozens of people on the screen who aren't really doing anything, it doesn't make the game world feel more alive. It's just clutter. If they decided to kind of ignore that and just stick with the amount of people in the game world right now, I wouldn't be particularly upset. So the next section covers companions, and it seems that most of the people who responded to the survey had a positive overall view of the companions and felt like they added good things to the game. We did have the opportunity to rate each companion individually, and no big surprise, Argenta, the battle sister, she was rated the highest with a 4.6 out of 5, and Pascal was number two with a 4.3 out of 5. And so, for the most part, I think I agree with that. I think they probably were my two favorite companions as well. And then down at the bottom, there were two companions that fell short of a 4.0 bar. So Adira only got a 3.7 and Jay got a 3.6. I agree with Jay. She suffers from what I've talked about before. You wait too long to have to pick up party members. I hate that. I really prefer when games give us as many party members as possible right up front. I feel like by the time you get her, more than likely your team is already set. And what Owlcat also mentioned is they feel like some of the other characters, fit in a particular archetype that is famous in Warhammer lore, whereas Jay is just a pirate. And so it's harder for characters to say, well, there's something really special about her, and it's important to me to have her on the team. And so to try to shore some of that up, they're going to give her more reactions. They're going to make it easier to find her in the game so that you can get to her quicker. And just in general, it seems like actually they're going to be improving and increasing the amount of reactions that companions have across the board. But they definitely see her as someone who needs a little bit more love in order for her to appeal more to players. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I don't agree with Adira being rated so low. I actually felt like her companion quest was very compelling and really enjoyed having her on the team, honestly, both from a story and a mechanic standpoint. But Owlcat mentioned that they feel like part of the reason she's rated so low is because a lot of why she's on the team is set up at the very beginning of the game, and the beginning of the game is not available in the alpha. And so they feel like players are kind of missing a large key part of her storyline, and that you'll feel much closer to her when you progress through the game the way you're naturally supposed to. The next section is narrative and dialogue, and Owlcat actually mentioned that they were really worried about all the terms that they were asking players to learn, but it seems like, at least as far as the people who play the alpha, though that's not really a concern. Over 80% of the respondents said that they have no problems in this regard, despite the lack of tutorials that are available in the alpha. It was also mentioned that the font size was a problem for some people. And so Owlcat provided a screenshot showing that they've improved on that and text legibility and scrolling in general. And they're going to continue to focus on it leading up to the beta. The next section is ground combat, and players responded that they feel like there's an overall good balance as far as the frequency, pace, and difficulty of combat encounters. I don't agree with that, honestly, and admittedly, this is somebody who's playing on normal, but I think the game is too easy, to be completely honest with you. And I compare that to the way normal feels in Wrath of the Righteous and to a lesser degree Kingmaker, because I know Kingmaker in general was just a harder game, but I felt like the alpha was way too easy. It was way too simple to get past encounters, and definitely could use some fine tuning. So some of the things that respondents did say were an issue, though, felt like loot was a problem, and they wish that loot had been more interesting. I 100% agree with that. Don't feel like there's nearly enough variety or things that really add to your character. Rarely did I need to actually assign things to my character, so hopefully they improve that. Second was progression, that they felt dissatisfied with the speed and variety of character development, which of course was going to be the case because the careers, which are essentially classes in Warhammer, they haven't really been fine-tuned or developed yet. So there's not enough variety there for you to really get a full sense of what type of system they're going to create. We'll see what it's like in the beta. Finally, over a third of the players had difficulty reading interface icons and interpreting the contents of the combat log. I didn't have those issues. I felt like the combat log was relatively clear. I got shot. How much damage did it do? Did this amount of damage? All right, that kind of sucked. Let's move on. But so I don't know what parts of it they had trouble interpreting, but I guess that's going to be another area where Owlcat is going to continue looking at and trying to make the log as good as it can possibly be. One interesting thing that came out of this section is that it looks like Owlcat is going to add a pre-combat preparation phase that would essentially allow you to manually place characters where you want them to be at the start of combat, which would be really, really nice. I enjoy having that kind of flexibility in a tactical fight. So looking forward to seeing how they implement that. The next section they touched on was space. And first, they started with the global map navigation, which was rated high, 4 out of 5 stars. Most of the people who responded to the survey enjoyed this portion, and I'm definitely one of those people. I think the navigation portion really, really distinguishes this game. It's a very interesting system. It's a very dangerous system. In most games, it's not dangerous just to literally, walk around the map, but that's definitely the case in Warhammer, as it should be from what I understand about the lore. And so I thought they did a really, really nice job with that, and I'm looking forward to diving back into it. What was not so great, and it's not surprising at all that this was not particularly well received, were the space battles. The battles where your ship could end up being in fights with other ships from enemy units. This part of the game was not fleshed out well at all. And just in general, I feel like most people are looking at it the same way they looked at kingdom management in Kingmaker and crusade management in Wrath of the Righteous. They're terrified about it and feel like it's going to be yet another game mode in an Owlcat game that they're going to want to skip or put on autopilot. So is that the case? Not clear yet, but Owlcat definitely makes it clear that they hear the feedback and that they understand there are several things regarding the experience that need to change. They specifically mentioned that the battles are too slow paced. They're going to overhaul the map UI as well and the space combat UI to make it more intuitive as far as figuring out how to go through these battles. And they've also said that from a visual standpoint, the space battles are going to give you some really, really stunning vistas that you'll be able to look at while you're engaging in combat. Next up was sound and music, and this is a really quick section. It's absolutely fantastic. In fact, I'm one of those people who definitely feels like the music might just be the best part of the game. It's probably my favorite part of the game. That theme song that they released when the game was first announced, I could play that over and over again. Like it absolutely gets me in that mood. So really, really great stuff, and looking forward to them releasing more of it. The next section is careers, which again is the classes within Warhammer. A lot of people, and I'm in agreement on this, felt like soldier was clearly the best career and significantly more powerful than all of the other careers. And most especially, assassin was very underwhelming, especially considering you would think that would be the best single target damaging career, but that was definitely not the case. Again, soldier just absolutely ripped enemies up. So Owlcat is aware of this. They are going to work to balance the careers a lot more, and they're going to add variety in what kind of options you have, while also providing a lot more information about what each career is supposed to do and what all of your different options are going to allow you to increase on your character sheet. So, just overall, the system should be much better by the time the beta comes around. Next section is cargo, reputation, and profit factor, which is a system I honestly did not like. It basically allows you to collect things as if they're junk and then send them as cargo to your ship so that the various people living on your ship can figure out how they're going to use it and redistribute it. There wasn't nearly enough information in the game about how the system was supposed to work, and I always felt confused. I always felt like I wasn't really doing it right, and yeah, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan at all. But I'm not gonna say I'm not a fan as far as I feel like they should completely scrap it. It might just be a thing where once the tutorials are in the game and I understand what's going on, I'll like it a lot more. But as far as just playing through the alpha, I was definitely lost. And also, they mentioned specifically here that there was poor balancing and lack of variety in the items offered by vendors. So it kind of goes back to what I said before about the loot was it was just nothing to write home about. So whether you were looting bodies or going to stores, it just didn't seem like there was enough good equipment for you to swap things out on your character and feel like you were really upgrading the gear that your characters had. And Outcast specifically mentions that they felt like there was a lot of obscurity involved in the system, a lack of tutorials, and that the UI was cumbersome. So basically, all the issues that I had with the game, Outcat saw as well, and it seems like at least they plan to address it. So in the beta, I think is when I'll make a real decision about regarding whether or not I actually like this system. And as it stands right now, there's so little information. It's just annoying to have to deal with it. The next section is colonies, and Owlcat doesn't talk about it very much because a lot of the people who filled out the survey didn't get far enough into the alpha in order to actually experience colonies. I did, but not enough to really make a decision on how I felt about them. And so Owlcat says that they received some information regarding colonies from the survey, and they're working to continue to improve the system. We'll just have to wait until the beta to see whether or not their changes have borne any fruit. And then the last thing in this write up is just a picture that summarizes some of the information we've already talked about. So 521 people filled out this survey overall, and 236 of them made it to the end of the survey. These are actually great numbers for this kind of thing. So don't feel bad about it all. Like 8% of the people who played filled out the survey. That's pretty much fantastic. Most people are just going to play the game and then move on with their lives. They're not going to be bothered with a survey. So definitely kudos to Owlcat. They had a total of 144 questions on the survey, and two people responded on the survey that they had never heard of Warhammer 40K before Rogue Trader. So that's really cool. It's going to be interesting to see how many new people are introduced into this world due to just this game. Owlcat has already worked on over 11,000 bugs, while people have provided feedback from the alpha. And yeah, just overall, really, really cool stuff. Great to see Owlcat provide some direct information about what's happening to the game. I'm really excited to hear confirmation on when this beta is finally going to get started. I'll be honest, I was definitely under the impression it would start before that. I had it in my head that we would be on the same timeline as Wrath of the Righteous. So, the beta came out in February and then the game came out in September, but doesn't appear like that's the case. So we'll just have to see when Owlcat is ready to finally release the beta so that we can get into the second wave of this game. But whenever that happens, you can be absolutely sure that I will cover it and give you all the information I can. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.